So this week's episode of The Rising of the Shield Hero was a very fun episode. I have to say, watching this next wave play out was easily better than the first time, and I thought the first time we saw this wave was a pretty damn fun system. This time though, the stakes are a lot higher, and actually having all the heroes work side by side in this fight made for a very interesting dynamic, something we haven't seen up till now in this series. I like the preparation beforehand, seeing that they're pretty well equipped, but it doesn't matter how well equipped you are, no matter how many potions you have, how many swords you have, it's never going to be enough and there's going to be casualties, but I do like the preparation beforehand, and I'm glad. I actually forgot about this scene, but Naofumi finally gives the jewelry for Philo as well as Raftalia, and we learn that they both will kind of complement their skills equally, but it was nice that he finally gave that present and we got the blacksmith guy just kind of chilling in the background, grinning away. I love that man and his reactions and how he'll kind of like just subtly insult Naofumi, but even when he tries to, it's usually not going to be that effective because they're going to love this gift even if he thinks it's a little shallow. It was just such a very heartwarming scene to transition us into such a brutal fight. Now granted, it wasn't as brutal as the first time around where we had a lot of death right off the bat, but this time Naofumi understands the system a bit better, so it's to be expected. But I have to say, I wasn't expecting Granny to come up and kick some ass being an adventurer back in the day. Clearly, she's leveled up her fair share over the years, and she can still kick some ass, which I thought was very amusing. And just the intro stages, I thought it was pretty much the same from the last time, except this time they felt a lot more equipped and a lot more prepared. They also have more arms to kind of fight against the wave, but still it was pretty much one for one with what we've seen in the previous waves. So if that was all it was going to be, I thought, well, this wave's not going to be anything too special. So I was actually pretty glad when we learned that Naofumi, Raftalia, and Philo were actually going to go aid the other heroes as his crew kind of defends the village, because no matter how much you defeat, it's not going to matter if the heroes aren't getting the main boss done. So I thought that was actually a pretty cool system. I wasn't expecting that. I figured we would probably see something like this maybe in the next wave, the wave after. I wasn't expecting it to be on the second go-round because Naofumi's still pretty shunned, but I like how Naofumi isn't doing it to help them. It's more of like, he can't protect a village, they just keep spawning. So when they actually got to the other heroes, that's where this episode became really special to me, because I like how not all the heroes are looking at Naofumi being there as like the worst of the worst. You know, they all have game experience except Naofumi. Naofumi read a book that this world's kind of based off. The rest have games in their version of Japan, so they still treat it as a game. So to them, the way to deal with this boss and to deal with this wave, there's a system that they should do, and they all have their own ideas of how to apply it to this wave, whereas Naofumi's just like, you guys are a bunch of idiots, and gets on that ship. When he gets on that ship, there was a lot of interesting things happening. I thought just the way there was so much emotion being said through very simple scenes. All these characters, they don't want to be around each other, but they have no choice but to fight side by side in a situation like this. They're all trying to deal with this kind of boss who's, for whatever reason, keeps respawning, which, you know, anytime you play a game where you have to fight off against a boss who just keeps regenerating after you defeat all its health, that always pisses you off, and you can kind of understand why these heroes are getting a little frustrated, because from their point of view, this is how you deal with it, but for whatever reason, nothing is being affected. But I like how Naofumi, because he hasn't really thought of this as a game, or something that's more fantasy and just fake, since he got this false allegation against him, he's had to apply real-world thinking to this world, so he notices simple things that most of these other heroes won't notice until they also wake up alongside Naofumi. So to learn that you gotta attack the shadow, and just the way they were exploring this fight, I thought was pretty cool, because it's interesting how much this episode is really showing these other heroes what the shield can do. I mean, at the end of the episode, one of the heroes says it's basically a hack, because that was ridiculous with what Naofumi did. But it was pretty fun seeing that Naofumi, without even trying to kind of be the hero, he ended up being the hero in the sequence because he was taking care of business. He was showing that his party is strong. He might only have 3 in his party, including himself, but he knows how to get the job done. When Philo's in the air just kicking ass, I love how she doesn't change her personality. She treats this as a very simple situation because she still has a very child's mindset, and I love how she'll be like, you can't catch me, as she's kicking all the ass. For being as such a tense situation as it was, I love how comfy it was in certain sequences, especially surrounding characters such as Philo, who just enjoys kicking ass because she has all this pent-up energy ready to explode, and who's better to explode on than the enemy of this wave. I wasn't actually expecting the Raid Shield to come into play. I thought that would be, obviously we'd see it again, but not anytime soon, because last time he used it, he hurt Raftalia, and I didn't think he was going to willingly do that, but it was nice to see that when he does decide to use it because these heroes, we can't defeat this enemy without using something of significant power. I like how he says it, but he says it in a very concerning way, like he wasn't trying to scare her, saying like, this is the only way, probably take a step back, this is all I can do. And I thought, the way they keep exploring this rage shield and this hatred, it's very intense, because on one hand, you're like, this is so cool, but on the other hand, you can tell that this dragon wants to take over, wants to control him, and if that dragon fully possessed him, he could easily hurt the ones that he cares about the most in the process. And I think that's what's so conflicting about this shield, is that on one hand, you get this immense amount of power that can just destroy a boss wave with real no struggle. Sure, it takes some time, but not a lot of struggle at the end of the day. But on the other hand, we see it can have a lot of penalties towards our main character and his party, including the people surrounding them. And I think that's what's really conflicting about this shield, and how on one hand you really root for it, but on the other hand you wish he doesn't have to use it, but in situations like this, he has no choice. So I thought like the building up to that was actually really good, because, things were looking alright, the heroes were kind of doing alright, the shield hero was defending, Raftalia was attacking. When there comes a point where Naofumi has to attack because the rest aren't strong enough, I thought that's really interesting, and I think it's really nice when we have moments with Raftalia being like, if only I was stronger, Naofumi wouldn't have to attack and he would only have to defend. It really shows how much she's concerned with him and how much she really wants to be his sword all of the time. And just to see that build up and just the voices in his head, kind of like this dragon trying to like manipulate him to give into the hatred, and just to see that shield turn into like this almost like dragon armor was awesome. And I thought the cage shield, where like he was trapping them in a cage, he was then spiking them, this Iron Maiden to do the finishing blow, that was such a awesome build-up, even better than the first time we saw this shield, because we got this extra layer to the shield, an extra power up to it to unlock the next kind of like level to it, and just that build-up, and he comes out unharmed after using such a dangerous shield. Like, that's what's really cool about Naofumi's character and his power system, is like after learning what he can and cannot do with it, he applies his thought process a lot differently. He learns and grows, unlike the other heroes who think, oh, we got this amazing power, let's just use it, call it a day. No, Naofumi, he's seen what happened the last time, he was very careful, and the entire time he was using it, he was fighting back to not be consumed, and once again, the only reason he didn't was because of Raftalia giving him that support, because that's how much he truly trusts in her, which really shows this relationship is continuing to develop, and really shows you why the two are such lovable just characters, and you kind of wish they never have to part ways when Naofumi does decide to go back to the human world. I thought just learning that there was actually a bigger boss and what we were fighting was actually pretty shocking. Typical anime character design, nothing out of the ordinary, but I have to say the entrance was pretty badass, spiking arrows down from the sky to take out the next enemy that they're going to fight, to show the true boss, and how she only acknowledges Naofumi as the true hero. That's absolutely awesome, but also a little frightening as well, because if she only cares about him, how is Naofumi going to defeat someone who basically just made the next boss that they were fighting look like a bitch because they were having some struggles? Naofumi was kicking ass, but it took some time to get that cage rolling. It's going to be pretty exciting to see where they're going to go next week. I thought voice acting wise was pretty awesome. Naofumi, anytime he gets into this rage or hatred shield, I love how he fights back. His actor is just giving it his all to really make you feel like, holy shit, he's really fighting back as if someone's trying to possess him and take over his body. And I guess I have to mention this because there is an English dub being released on the same day as the Japanese. I don't watch this in the English dub. I watch it in the original audio, so I have the full translation, nothing being manipulated or localized. I love the Japanese acting. When you have Bunny Girl Senpai actors reuniting for this anime, there's no reason why I would ever touch a dub for the Rising of the Shield Hero, because that audio is just killer. I have to mention it. I'll mention it one time because for whatever reason I keep getting people ask me when I talk about the voice acting if I'm referencing the English or the Japanese. I just assume that people would assume that I'm watching the Japanese because it's currently airing, but I guess when the dub is releasing on the same day, I gotta mention it, at least for this video. I just really enjoyed it. I thought the OST was actually pretty interesting, because typically with action scenes such as this where you have like life or death at stake, usually you got pretty intense music, and if I recall correctly, the last wave had some pretty intense music in itself, but this episode, it was a lot more simplistic, a lot more basic, and not really all that intense. Like, you could probably take the music that was being applied when they were on this ship fighting and apply it to a lot of slice of life anime. I'm not kidding. Like, that's how it kind of felt to me, and I thought it was actually a nice kind of contrast to what was happening on screen. It really got me in the moment. The music was loud enough, but not so loud that it was overpowering dialogue or the sound effects when they were attacking these monsters. But the music really added to the scene, and I love how much variety it does have, so every time we get into a new battle or a new scene, it usually feels different from the last. But then again, when you got the soundtrack composer that we currently have, there's no doubt that the soundtrack will be killer. This episode was very, very fun, and what I really appreciate is that it wasn't just a lot of action and showing off a cool flash of substance here or there. It was that there was actually stories being told here. We were exploring how these heroes are reacting to Naofumi, how Naofumi is reacting to these heroes, how he's applying himself to this world, and how this world is opening up more and more, and because of his actions, they're recognizing the shield hero as being the true hero. Hell, even the boss to this wave is recognizing the shield hero being the true hero, and the rest are just no one that they need to really focus on. So it's going to be interesting to see the events after we do deal with this wave, how the next wave will go, because we're clearly seeing that Naofumi is the strongest out of the heroes here. We're starting to see that as Naofumi unlocks more and more of his shields, he's recognizing, and the characters are recognizing, he is strong, whether they want to admit it or not. So it's going to be pretty cool to see what's going to happen, especially because the Queen should be coming back. At least I anticipate she'll be coming back before the next wave, or maybe it'll be the one after. But I expect when she does finally arrive, the shield hero is going to be the one marching into battle, head of the pack, not kind of being trailed behind, saying like, go defend a village here or there, when really the shield hero should be the one attacking these wave bosses head on, with the others supporting him if they didn't have so much pride and ego. This episode was fun. It was exhilarating. It had a lot going on. The music was on point. The voice acting was on point. And they were exploring this power system and also this cast in a very interesting way, in a very thorough way, to really let you buy into that these events that we've been watching that some people might want to call opassable or filler, or whatever the hell people want to call it for very stupid reasons, they have meaning and they build up to these moments that, yes, the action is fun, but you can't just have an anime built on action. There's no substance, there's no development, there's no reason to care about the lives and the deaths of these characters if we don't build up and really see them grow like we have been over the past few episodes. This was the most intense action sequence, it was the most fun action sequence, and it was also the most rootable action sequence, because we had characters who I don't like support the shield hero even in their own kind of shitty way. Like, they don't like the guy, but I did like at the end, they did recognize that they have to fight, thanks to Raftalia's words of wisdom. Incredible episode. I'll be interested to hear what everyone thought of this week's episode of The Rising of the Shield Hero. Did you love it? Did you hate? Your favorite moment? Whatever you're feeling, let me know, and be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.